In 2025, two stock market giants dominate investor attention, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite. Both are benchmarks for the US economy, but they couldn't be more different. One represents stability and broad diversification. The other captures innovation, risk, and the future of technology. So, which is the better investment in 2025? Let's break down how each index works, their performance this year, and where smart investors are placing their bets. The basics. What are the S&P 500 and Nasdaq? The S&P 500 tracks the 500 largest companies in the United States, spanning every major sector, from healthcare and finance to energy and consumer goods. It's considered the most accurate measure of the US economy's overall health. If America grows, the S&P 500 grows. The Nasdaq Composite, on the other hand, includes over 3,000 companies, but it's heavily tilted toward technology, AI, and biotech. That means it's more volatile, but also more explosive in times of growth. Think of it this way. The S&P 500 is the engine of the economy. The Nasdaq is the jet fuel. Performance in 2025. So far in 2025, both indexes have performed well, but the reasons behind their success differ. The S&P 500 is up around 18% year-to-date, powered by strong earnings from consumer and financial sectors. Lower inflation and a resilient US job market have also kept investor confidence high. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq Composite has surged over 30%, led by AI-driven companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, and AMD. Investors are betting heavily on the next wave of technology, from generative AI to autonomous systems. However, that also means Nasdaq valuations are stretched. The S&P's gains come from broader participation, while the Nasdaq's are concentrated in just a handful of mega-cap stocks. In short, S&P 500 ill-balanced, stable growth. Nasdaq, high-reward, high-risk innovation. Risk versus reward. If you're choosing between the two, you're really choosing between risk profiles. The S&P 500 gives exposure to every major industry. It's ideal for long-term investors seeking steady compounding returns. Historically, it's delivered about 10% annual returns over the past century. The Nasdaq, by comparison, has averaged closer to 13 to 14% annualized returns, but with far sharper drawdowns. During downturns like 2022, the Nasdaq lost nearly 35%, while the S&P fell only 19%. So the question isn't just which performs better, but which fits your temperament. Do you want smoother growth, or can you stomach volatility for potentially bigger upside? What 2025 tells us. In 2025, the key market drivers are AI innovation, interest rates, and global trade. The Nasdaq thrives on technological breakthroughs, but higher interest rates tend to hurt growth stocks. If the Federal Reserve signals rate cuts in late 2025, the Nasdaq could surge even higher. The S&P 500, meanwhile, benefits from steady consumer demand, bank profitability, and industrial growth. It's a reflection of economic strength, not just tech optimism. That's why some analysts recommend a balanced allocation, using ETFs like VOO, S&P 500, and QQQ, Nasdaq 100, to capture both stability and innovation. So, which is the better investment in 2025? The S&P 500 is your best bet for long-term, diversified, lower-risk growth. The Nasdaq Composite is your play if you believe AI and technology will keep reshaping the world. In truth, the smartest investors don't pick one. They combine both. Because in the modern economy, you need both the foundation and the future. So, as markets evolve, remember this. The S&P tells the story of where we are. The Nasdaq tells the story of where we're going. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments, are you Team S&P or Team Nasdaq?